There's no comparison between religion and secularism. Religions rely on lists of ideas, lists of morals, lists of rules. Secularists, atheists, humanists have to think these things out for themselves. And I think on any subject, if you think of it, if you apply your brain to your own enlightened self-interest and your interest in the good of the society in which you live, the health and welfare, then you will come to a good result. You won't find all the contradictions and the absurdities that come from religion. And all the religions, including the supposed, what I'm sure you wouldn't agree are Muslim states, and Christian ones, including most of Europe, all South America, and quite a lot of Africa now, and Europe, are based on Christianity. We do not have a secular society. However much you would like to believe you are being persecuted, and the religions are absolutely dying to be persecuted, and yet they are the experts. They're the people who have persecuted each other for years and years, and they have persecuted non-believers. Non-believing has been a capital offence in most countries, and still is in a lot of
Sorry, see if you could
Islamic countries.
wrap up.
There's a lot of hands over there.
Yep, I'm going to go back to them. And did you want to make a point?
You know, I really have to disagree with this idea of that secularists use their minds, because the origins of secularism was based upon a cop-out. It was based upon the idea that there was a bloody feud between, the so-called Enlighteners and religion and Christianity. And they came to a compromise. Look, let's not answer this question of is there a God or not, and what role he should have in society. Let's just come to a compromise, a cop-out. The fact that he should not have a say in society. So I would disagree with the fact that secularists have used their mind to basically come to this. And secondly, if you're talking about this issue of using their minds, look at the global meltdown of the financial system today. Yeah, look at the social breakdown of society. Isn't this an indication of the problems of using your mind to actually solve the problems of human affairs?
No, it's about greed.
Thank you. Sorry, Sue. Yeah, right at the back corner. Sorry, guys, if you could quieten down.
Question to is we're talking about the number, crime, rape, everything. Do you actually think that it has risen since religion, for example, since the Middle Ages? I don't think that violence has increased, even if Western countries have been have turned away from religion, had secularized And also we were talking about protecting yourself, like wearing a headscarf, hiding yourself, that will prevent rape, for example. But do you not think that's a very pessimistic view, that you have to actually protect yourself from men, and that they're so badly treated that?
Thank you, student. If you want to go back to that. It was...
Okay. Yeah, so the first question about whether violence has increased or other problems that have increased. Undoubtedly, these problems have been there since the time of dawn, isn't it? In terms of violence against women, exploitation of women, and so on. But what the statistics show is that these problems are on the rise. So, for example, even in terms of family breakdown, STDs, and all of these issues, the statistics have shown, for example, with STDs, over the last 5 years, even in children, there has been a 58% increase of this problem. The police report every minute a call of a victim of domestic violence. Family breakdown, this issue of single mothers has been undoubtedly a rising problem within the Western societies today. These are problems that have always existed, but what needs to be understood is joining of the dots. Joining of the dots between certain values, for example, liberal values that create a mindset amongst some men, not all men, amongst some men, that they are allowed to treat and view women how they want. And it's a problem, because if capitalism, like the gentleman said, if capitalism has created the supply, what has created the demand? What's created the demand of the sex industry? What's created the demand for pornography? And it's a big demand, because in London alone, there's 900 brothels, London alone. So we have to ask this question of the issue of joining the dots between the values and what that creates in the minds of people and the problems that come up. The second issue. The second question.
The second question was wearing the hijab.
I actually didn't say that wearing the hijab prevents you from being raped, because you can wear the hijab, like we've seen in Bosnia and many of these countries, in Iraq, women have been raped wearing the hijab. What I'm talking about is creating a society where you minimize certain problems in society versus other values that can actually exacerbate the problem. So what Islam says, that if you want to maintain the respect of women, it doesn't have this idea that you can have your cake and eat it. Freedom has this idea, look, do what you want, but we can still create good family units, we can still prevent teenage pregnancies, all of these things. It doesn't work like that. If you want to achieve strong family units and prevent adultery and prevent single parents, prevent teenage pregnancies and protect the sexual health of society, you need laws and limits. In the same way that you need laws and limits to produce a productive economy. You would think me mad if I said that you can have a productive economy by leaving it to individual conscience to pay tax. Isn't it? Okay, maybe I want to pay tax, maybe you don't. You'd never run a system in that way. So if you want to have these values of respect for women, strong family units, get men and women to interact properly, you need to have strict laws and limits to bring that to life.
Thank you.
Can I make a point on that?
Yes.
I'd like to make a point on that, because prostitution is a very good example of the tendency of society today to see problems associated with sex. And there are a lot of abuse of all sorts. And the answer to that is to deal with the abuses, to deal with the problems. It is criminal activity, and that should be opposed at every stage. The answer to those problems is not to stop women from protecting themselves. A lot of secularists would say that prostitutes should first and foremost be able to protect themselves. And yet the laws that could be put in force to allow prostitutes to work in such a way that they do not get STDs, that they are not vulnerable to violence. And yet those are the very laws that the religions oppose consistently, and they persuade women who are also have bought into that idea that prostitution itself is bad, and they themselves will oppose campaigns such as the Safety First campaign that would address the problems, and it's the problems that need addressing.
Thank you. Okay, yes.
Assalamu alaikum. It's not, look, secularism is the detachment of religion from life's affairs. Let's just get that right. In the United States...
No.
Sorry, Sue, if you could let this finish. Sorry, Sue. I have to let finish.
I must correct you. It's from the state.
Yes. Sue, I'm sorry, you have to let him finish.
It's from the
Sue, you have to let him finish, I'm sorry.
Sue, if he goes on...
Sue, please, let him finish. Sorry, Sue, sorry. Well, if you could carry on. Sorry, if you could carry on. Sorry, if you could carry on. Sorry, Sue.
Let me rephrase this.
Sue.
Right.
Thank you. Alright, guys, if we carry on like this, we're not going to get too far in terms of questions.
Alright, let me rephrase that then. Under the communist society, communism fought a crusade against religion. And Marx and Lenin, those people said that religion was the opium of the masses. And under the communist state of Soviet Russia, women were oppressed as well as men, which is why you had a 1991 revolution and an uprising. You see, it is man-made law that will oppress women, and it is, if women had the right to legislate, they would oppress the men. It's likely to happen. My question is this.
Sorry, guys, please, quiet. Guys, come on. We're not going to get far.
There is a mindset in the West which says that if men and women do not have the same role, that somehow women are oppressed. Can you please, Dr. Nasreen, elaborate the fact that despite the fact that sometimes in some areas women may not have the same roles as men, that Islam nevertheless does not oppress the women. So can you please elaborate upon the sameness between the sexes and how it doesn't necessarily lead to the oppression of women? Thank you.
Thank you.
You know this idea that if you don't have sameness, you have oppression? I think maybe that was the question that the brother was asking. Sometimes that sameness or forcing that sameness produces oppression. Because if you look at gender equality, what it's done is that it hasn't simply given the choice of women today to work. It's women today, many women today feel the pressure to work, the superwoman complex, where they not only have to provide for the family as a breadwinner now, but they also have to look after the house and the children and do all the home chores. So the have-it-all woman has become the do-it-all woman. And being chained to the kitchen sink today has been exploited by capitalism to become chained to the economic market. This is the reality of what's happened, and it's caused misery for women. The NHS Information Centre a couple of years ago talked about how the stress levels for women has increased because they are having to balance all of these responsibilities: work, children, looking after elderly parent, looking after the home, and so on. What Islam says is no. Islam doesn't put the man as the standard. Yeah? Islam says, why are you putting the man as the standard? Put the human being as the standard. So when Islam says that when it comes to human needs, they're the same: education, basic needs, healthcare, economic rights, political rights. But when it comes to the family unit and certain rights and responsibilities, Islam says that if you want things to work, cooperation, then people will have to have different rights and responsibilities. Sometimes putting the self-interest of a woman over the self-interest of a man overrides what's best for the family, for children, and for society overall.